Welcome to the show. I'm Veronica Newfer, and I'm at the Republican meeting here in Yamhill County with Al LeMay. There was a Republican Party platform convention just recently, and on today's show, we are going to meet different people that were there, and they'll discuss what the Republican Party platform is about, which direction it's going. But for now, Al.
Hey, thanks.
Hi.
Great, yeah. So this past end of October, so it was October 28th, 29th, there was the Republican Platform Convention, as you spoke of. Our county sent some delegates down there to Bend to see what changes they wanted to make to the platform this time around. So we tend to be one of the more conservative counties, so our drive is to always make sure the platform is doing what we as a county has adopted for our motto, which is to restore our conservative principles and values to all levels of government.
Okay.
So I think our representatives did a great job this year in getting those things, through various topics, anywhere from senior health care to immigration to personal liberty and freedom, those kinds of things that they went into this year for the caucuses. Our platform expresses our values and our principles, and if it doesn't matter who's proposing that bill, it's got to fit within that framework that we've decided is important to us as Republicans. So, it doesn't, lawmaker could be a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican. That bill needs to, that legislative agenda needs to fit within that. So, this carbon thing that, energy green thing that Governor Brown wants to do is way out there.
Yeah, that will surely take away our private property rights.
Yep.
That comes right out of Agenda 21, which is to kill our freedoms.
Yes.
And take away our private property.
I think the debate that goes on is healthy for our party because it shows where are we headed as a party. What do we expect? Are we returning to the conservative principles and values that this nation was founded on, or are we trekking down a path towards socialism and using soft tyranny, to essentially, we say these things are good, or we do them because we think they're good, but we've ineffectively just, embraced soft tyranny and become the proverbial frog that's in the water before you turn up the heat.
Right.
So.
There seems to be a lot of compromises in our party where a lot of people can't even differentiate between Democrat and Republican. When I went there several years back, I was completely impressed and encouraged that everybody I met there just about were God-fearing people that wanted to keep God in our platform, in that we were endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that they hold those things dear. And so it seems like overall when people show up, it seems like a lot of the representatives there almost mirror Yamhill County.
Yeah, I think that's true, and there's a little bit of diversity in that because we do have people from, say Klamath Falls region that they're most of their topics tend to be centered around issues that are going on in their community. But they don't necessarily, when you look at the issues, if you look at the foundation of that issue, which gets to, say private property rights. If you're talking about mining in the Klamath Basin, you're still talking about property rights. Do you have the right to do with what you want with the property, to a certain extent? If I'm a farmer in Eastern Oregon and I, am, raising cattle and things like that, something like that, does my private property rights still mean the same thing as the people in the Klamath Basin or a farmer in Yamhill County? And to us, as conservatives, private property is private property. And whether it be an individual, a business, or whatever, should have the right to protect that property, should be able to use that property for which it was intended to be used for, and not have government come by and change the rules or set down new rules that affects or changes how you're able to use that property.
Okay.
So I think it's, like I say, overall, folks tend to have the same issues. They just might look a little different when you're coming from different places
Yeah,
in the county or
yeah,
different from the state. So.
Good point, okay. So as viewers are going to see, we have representatives from Yamhill County. They're going to talk about their particular issue and what happened. And I know you weren't there this time,
Yeah.
but I understand that there were 12 different caucuses. And can you briefly, the ones you have memorized, can you say what they were?
So there's a lot, there's a few of them, like there's a family platform, which speaks to everything that has to do with family issues. So it could be, which deals with marriage, which deals with, it's basically kind of stuff that you would think of as like in health and human services type issues. Recently, there was a veterans plank that was added, or a portion that was added to the platform. Excuse me. And then there's environmental. There's actually an environmental section that goes to how we as conservatives look at the environment and how we would, why we would want to restore logging in Oregon, say. It's like, well, wait a second. We're having these massive fires all over the state. Whether they're man-created or God-created, there's still a fire, but there's an underlying issue that those things, if that place would have been logged out and there wasn't as much growth laying on the ground, that some of the damages could have been mitigated.
And then we'd have all that money for the
Yeah,
houses
and then we'd
and
have,
wood.
and some of that money goes to schools, and especially in rural communities. The deal is that you were supposed to log the timber and you were going to get dollars for those timber, and that really hurts rural schools when you're not allowed to do those things. So I think, if someone were to go to the Republican Party website and they were to pull the platform down and read through it, I think they'd be pretty surprised at the breadth of issues that are discussed. But again, they have to keep in mind, this is not necessarily what you want to accomplish legislatively. They need to be principles and values that won't change over time.
Okay, contrast the Republican Party platform with the Democrat, and I know we could go on and on about that, but in just a
I think the
couple
biggest.
minutes or
I think the biggest thing is that, like you had alluded to earlier, is that we believe God gave us our inalienable rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think our platform reflects those foundings from our set forth by the Declaration of Independence, backed by our Constitution, and you'll see that in our platform. With the Democrats, you won't see the word, you won't see the mention of God in the platform. You'll see more of an agenda-driven platform where they think universal health care or women's rights, equal pay, things like this, which are, I believe, topics that get voting bases hot and moving. And so it's easy to take that little piece of their platform and gin up a bunch of people and get them upset about something.
Get them upset over something, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I see, the Republican platform is God-given rights, whereas the Democratic platform is government rights.
Yeah.
And they will take all your rights away, and then they'll give it to you if they want to. And a lot of times what they wind up doing is they give the rights to the special interests,
or a class of people.
a class of people or whatever, and usually it's based on their voting block, and rather than integrity
Yep.
and really what's right. And, Republicans do that too, but our platform is formed in hopes that the Republicans won't do that.
Yeah.
Though they still do. We
Yeah.
try to get them out of office when we see
Yep.
them infringing on our rights too. So, okay, well, without further ado, we're going to get back to
Yep.
our representatives.
All right.
My little brother was in a car accident that he rarely survived. It inspired me to open something like this.
The main goal is to, when you come in here, reduce the tendency for scar tissue to build up and give you residual pain after your injury.
We work with the nervous system, the circulatory system, to enhance the function of the entire musculoskeletal system.
We want to make sure that patients do know the location where they need to go, what they need to do, because bad things happen to good people.
At Antonio's restaurant, we value the customers and strive to make your dining experience enjoyable. Fresh Italian food is made daily. soup and sauces passed from the Piscitelli family recipe. Serving local wines, we are located in Young Hill County, Lafayette. We are bringing Italy's fine cuisine to you.
In my line of work, I need to be able to replace a part quickly. At Davidson Auto, the selection is great. They carry a large variety of automotive supplies, welding equipment, and a huge selection of tools. They have everything I need, and if they don't have it, they get it here quick.
Every life is precious, and every life has purpose.
If you've ever felt powerless to make a difference for the cause of life, we invite you to make your voice heard by supporting this thriving community service. We're making an even greater impact for the sanctity of human life with the addition of ultrasound services.
At the Salem Pregnancy Resource Center, lives are being impacted, and you can play a part. Let your voice be heard for those who are yet to be born.
Learn more at salemprc.org or call 364-2543.
I was able to go to the Family Caucus, which was, when you first get there, you they divide you up into the different caucuses, and everybody gets to pick which one they want. I think there's like 12. Is that how many? Anyway, and some people had spoken to that they didn't really want us to redo the Family Caucus, wanted to keep it the same, but the group was pretty much adamant that we all went to caucus. Some people wanted to make changes. Of course, there was some that wanted to change to a more moderate stance on family, and those suggestions were heard, but the group was pretty conservative, and so marriage stood as it is, one man, one woman, and there was a strong stance for life. There was a few things added. I actually got to be a little involved in the new plank on that. It was about adoption, and we actually added a plank about adoption and supporting pregnancies. And I don't know the exact wording on that. And I added a word to another plank. I added the euthanasia to one of the planks because some people in the group were saying that they didn't feel that that was well covered, and so I suggested, I moved that we add it. So we did add it. So that was kind of fun, having an effect on the platform itself. And then after all the caucuses were finished, we went back and met, and this was the next day. I think we did that, and it was pretty intense because we could redo whatever we needed to redo, but like John was saying, there wasn't a lot of time, and everybody just kind of had their own way of thinking about it. There was some that really wanted to move things along, and I actually think they slowed things down. But anyway, we went through each plank, each different caucus, and like John had said, a lot of people had worked beforehand as well. And then what was worked on in caucus, we decided on what we wanted to present. And then people made motions to change things. And so I actually changed one other thing during that time on a different caucus I had worked on, because I really felt that personal property was important to business, and they'd kind of deleted that word, and so I asked them to put it back in, and it was kind of interesting, how those things flowed. So, but it was very interesting. You really got to get a feel for where people are coming from, and you really got to see how the process works, and how you kind of have to take it slow as the chair. He did really good, but at first he was going too fast, and so people wouldn't get a chance to say what they needed to say before he would close the vote. It's like, I didn't get a chance, but it didn't happen to me. But it was pretty much, you just had to move and do it, and very exciting. So,
religious caucus, and I attended immigration, that caucus.
Can you give an overview on each one?
The religious, very little change was made to the existing. We got through in about 40 minutes, which left an enormous amount of time.
And immigration?
That received a lot of attention. It pretty much follows the traditional Republican position on immigration in favor of our president's position on it, essentially. I thought something should be added which addressed the numbers of immigrants that are allowed into the country and the nature of the immigrants that are chosen, but that didn't get into the platform. And it was shot down by people that are in position, and that kind of ended debate that ruled out opportunity to bring it up on the convention floor.
Well, yeah, I know. I was just on a small group about the senior health care and government, let's see, paying for it and stuff. And so one lady came in, that one lady that joined us was severely handicapped, or I guess you'd call it that. And she had studied to be a lawyer, so she was wanting to, try to help people that are handicapped. And so she wanted that to be included in the mandate of seniors and handicapped to get, government financing and stuff, help for their health care and stuff. One of the hot things to me that they touched on that I'm really concerned about was the Hammonds and what the federal government did to our ranchers in Eastern Oregon. So they brought that up and discussed that and stuff. I don't know that we got anywhere on it, but that's what I'm looking for, is to get those guys out of prison and get justice served.
My experience was amazing. So this was my first time doing the event. This event starts before you actually go there, and it starts with groups coming together and emailing each other back and forth and setting up phone conferences. And that's very interesting. I went through 2 phone conferences working on a plank. And then when you got to the platform, you got to choose another plank at the platform. I was going to work on veteran services. However, I ended up, because there was a lot of vets there, they were all interested in how the vets were getting treated. So I instead jumped over to private property rights. And then, because that was so well put together from before we even got there, it was just well written. All we had to do basically was amend a couple of words to make everything flow real well and keep it constitutional. I think we shortened up a couple parts. But from there, I went over and helped finish up the plank with emergency preparedness, which is a new plank this year. So it was very inspiring to be part of this, because I got involved to actually make sure that the party's heading in the right direction, and I feel like it's heading in the right direction with the way that the platform is written. So,
Can you give an overview on the private property rights and emergency preparedness? Just kind of an overview where things are at on the platform.
Well, the emergency preparedness is written a lot better than what the state has put out. I don't have the material in front of me, but we do support private property rights as Republicans and conservatives.
The conversations and the debate were spirited. Yeah. And there was pros and cons. Nobody was intimidated by anybody. Nobody was shouted down, but boy, everybody got their feelings out there. When we finally left caucus, we had agreed on actually a pretty good platform. What ended up happening in that one is that the old platform was like one paragraph. Limited government and personal freedom. In the personal freedom section, it was one paragraph, and it basically said, government, butt your nose out of our business. is pretty much what it said. Well, one of the things that we added to that particular paragraph was that, and that includes our electronic communications. And so we thought that was important to get that into there because, I mean, look at what's going on with some of the electronic stuff now. And so that was in there. And then we added another paragraph that basically was saying, I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. I can't remember how to. No, I can't remember how the last paragraph went on it, but it basically was saying that you can't be making laws to exempt yourselves from the laws, lawmakers, pretty much is what it was saying, that you can't make yourself or your buddies not have to follow the same lines that everybody else does. And then the third paragraph that we tried to add, and we actually added in caucus, basically was for that we supported an Article 5 application of the U.S. Constitution to be able to amend the Constitution at the recommendation of states. And we got through caucus on that, and then came Saturday. It got really wild. There was a lot of opposition to it. There was a lot of support for it. Because there is a strong movement by a lot of different groups right now to actually hold an Article 5 convention for a sundry of reasons, and to implement that particular portion of the U.S. Constitution. So we ended up, the paragraph that we wanted to add that actually would have specifically stated that ended up being voted out. But I want to say thank you to Mr. Currier, because he did, in spite of the fact that the oral vote went down, and I was sure we had lost it on the oral vote, that was going to be pulled. He wanted a counted vote. He actually wanted to know specifically, out of the 160 some people that were there, how many of them specifically wanted that paragraph gone. It ended up 114. So a third of the people wanted it kept in. 2/3 wanted it gone, so it's gone. But we do have one little phrase in there that says that the federal government is limited by the 9th and 10th Amendments and open to rescission by Article 5. So in a way, we kind of do have Article 5 in our platform. Not as strong as I wanted it, but
Article 5 would make it.
there's two ways of amending the U.S. Constitution. One, you can have 3/5 of both houses of Congress propose an amendment, or the other way is that 3/5 of the states, which would be 34 states, can go to convention and recommend amendments. And it's never been done the second way. It's been done 27 times the first way. But either way is equally legal. So the people that are primarily against it and that say, oh, it'll be a runaway convention, they'll get rid of the Second Amendment, and then on the other side they're going, oh, it'll be a runaway convention, they'll overturn Roe v. Wade. So those are the two extreme arguments that you hear from the right and the left. As runaway convention, and it's it can't be a runaway convention. It can't be. So this is some of the fear mongering that goes on, and one of the reasons I think Mr. Currier turned on and said. After we got through taking our vote, he said this is a very contentious subject. It needs a lot more review and it needs a lot more discussion. And that's how he closed that election on that particular plank of the platform. And I thought that was good, because at least he was willing to acknowledge the fact that this is something we need to talk about. And that was my contribution to it.
Okay, we're back. And just one more thing so we can close. If anybody wants to come to the meetings, they feel like these are things that they can identify with, let them know. Where they can go.
Every third Tuesday of the month, we meet at the McMinnville Community Center. Usually it's upstairs. It starts at 7 o'clock at night. So if you want to go ahead and swing on by, like I say, 7 o'clock. The next meeting will be January 16th. We hope to have some interesting discussion. It will be the first one of the election year, so we do have an election coming in May for governor that we're going to take our Republican candidates in the primary, whittle them down to one, and see who's going to defeat Kate Brown coming
Okay.
up in the fall.
Yeah.
So,
And also our conservative county commissioners, we have at least one, right?
Mary Sterry.
Mary
yes,
Sterry, yeah,
is
yeah.
up for election. Yes.
Yeah, and we want to make sure, because there'll be another, somebody else on the other side that will be going against her, and hopes to win in the primary. And we don't want that to happen. So anyway, so yeah, come on to the Republican meetings, especially if you're like-minded, and we will enjoy seeing you and welcoming you here. And thank you for tuning in. Have a good week. Bye-bye. Inspiration.
Arts and crafts.
Health and wellness.
Communication and information.
We're here to encourage and inspire you.
You have a gift? We know you do. And so do we.
Whether you come in to look by or want to promote your gift, we invite you to come in because when we're working together, we can accomplish great things.
This is a fossil of a fish swallowing another fish. Either that or the little one is a dentist, I don't know. Okay? But neither one thought they were going to die that day. The big one had the little one halfway down and the flood came and the mud probably covered them up and they died. The Bible says it's appointed unto man once to die, but after this the judgment.